Hey, in today's video, I want to give you some really practical advice on how to become a professional photographer in 2021 because the entire game has changed and if anything, it's highlighted some of the problems the industry has always had. So this is not perhaps going to be the most sexy advice, I guess. It's not going to be go out and buy a house supply, that's for sure. So let me give you some real practical tips. And the first one is kind of a bit of a downer, and that is because I've seen so many people lose their businesses this year. They've lost their studios, they've had to sell their kit, whatever it may be. You have got to have a year's worth of savings set aside. And that's not just for photographers, that's for everybody. And I've been guilty of not doing this in the past or spending said savings on fun times. But if you want to be a professional and you want to be competitive, you have to be able to weather the storm. And over here in the UK right now, we're in our third complete lockdown of no work. So I'm currently in my studio at midnight, I guess. It's pretty late. Trying to get some work done between homeschooling and all the rest of it. You've got to have savings. If you don't have savings, you're not going to stand a chance. It's just so important. And that sort of brings me through to the second part. And that is equipment. It is so easy to get caught up in sort of magazines and websites, and I'm guilty of this myself, sponsored YouTube videos, and thinking that you need the latest kit. I very nearly bought a Blackmagic so I could get better videos here because the camera that I'm shooting this on is particularly horrendous for videos. The highlights clip, the shadows block out. It's very hard to get a nice image, but it's not really going to make me any more money, so I have to stick with what I've got. And I think so many of us are so guilty of this. I sort of need some bigger packs for my heads at the moment, but they're 10 grand each. So what I did yesterday was I got 8 speed lights I have kicking around and gaffer taped them all together into a giant fast or short flash duration light. So equipment has got to be bought minimally, or minimalist, as a minimalist. And as well as going, oh yes, but I can tax deduct it and put the depreciation through the business. That's all great, but it's not as great as just saving the money. Because there's not a bad camera out there since 2008. Like a 5D Mark II is absolutely ample for most campaigns, and if it's bigger than that, rent it. Don't buy brand new gear, buy used gear, it's just so much better. As soon as you take a brand new camera out of the box, you're literally burning money. So my big advice would be just to cut back on the spending, try not to spend too much, although I've just bought all new microphones, so maybe I should take my own advice. Anyway, do that. Right, the third bit of advice, and this is really important, and that is to have a very, very tight niche. I have seen a lot of, I've got cat fur on my face. I've seen a lot of very generic or general photographers going out of business because they're not getting booked enough, because there just aren't enough jobs out there. The only way to stay afloat at the moment seems to be getting the big jobs, because they're still few and far between, but a big job is a big job. Now, the only way you're going to get a big job is by having that very niche down portfolio. And I know it's scary to go, well, do you know what? Not only do I not just shoot food, but I also just shoot this very specific style of food and this very specific type of food. But the benefit of that is that when the job comes up, they know it's for you. They know it's your work and it's your job. And the other stuff, that's somebody else's work and you let them do it. I cannot stress enough the importance of niching down. If I hadn't have done this, I would not be in the position I am now, which I'm very, very fortunate to be in. I'm very grateful for the position I'm in. You know, I'm kind of not worried about this year so much. It's fine. Whatever happens, happens business-wise, and it doesn't matter. And that's because I did niche down and I took that leap of faith, and it was terrifying, but it paid off in the long term. Now, this is going to seem really obvious, but you need to cold call and you need to cold email or cold contact. You are not going to make it as a photographer by simply posting your work on social media. You have got to pick up the phone and dial numbers. The amount of photographers I speak to who are struggling and I've offered help or they're asking me for help, whatever it may be, I've said, well, how many phone calls are you making a day? And they've never made a phone call. They've never picked up the phone and phoned an agency and gone, I'd love to show you my book. Can we arrange a Zoom call? Obviously back in the day it'd be a coffee, but nowadays it's a Zoom call. You've got to get ready for that. You've got to set a day aside each week where you are just marketing, and it's going to be awkward. It's going to be uncomfortable. You're going to make an idiot of yourself. I mean, I'll make an idiot of myself most days, so I'm sort of resigned to that fact, but you've just got to go with it, and you're going to hear no. People are going to say no a lot. I went back through some emails to somebody I was talking to recently, and I'd wanted to work with this particular client for a very long time. And when I searched their name to find them, I realized I was being rejected by them since 2014, which is quite some feat, especially that they're in the same job, but still, 2014 until 2020, they rejected me, and then now they want to work with me. So you're going to get rejected. It kind of feels bad. You get a bit hurt about it, but then could be worse. Now, the last tidbit of advice is that you need to get onto social media. And I know a lot of people don't like social media and they don't agree with social media. But the thing is, most of the world is in lockdown right now, and people are spending an awful amount of time on their phones and on their computers and ignoring their partners, scrolling through Instagram. You need to be on there. You need to be on the stories daily. You need to be on the grid daily if you've got enough content. If you haven't, like me, because you sort of ran out of images, just plug the stories all the time. It's the best way to go. I cannot tell you how much work I get because of Instagram. And it's not necessarily somebody looking for a photographer on Instagram. It's more just that constant reminder, because as photographers, we're the panic buy at the end of the whole thing. There's the brand, there's the idea, there's the campaign, there's the ad agency, their idea, their campaign, the treatments, the decks, they all come together and they go, oh, we need a photographer, yes, let's get this one, shooting next week. Like, it could be 6 months in the making before they book us. So when they book us, they're going to go with who they last thought of. And if you just happen to hit up in their inbox with an email or on their Instagram, a newsletter, an e-shot, an e-card, whatever it may be, you will get booked. My first book cover I shot, I got booked because I happened to have sent an email to them that day. And they went, we need a photographer. And someone went, I've just had an email from one. Let me get in touch with them, see if it's free. And that's how I got it. So I hope this has been of use to you. Throughout this year, I'm going to try and give as much business advice as possible, as well as showing you behind the scenes on some stuff. I've actually done a behind the scenes on a real commercial shoot. I'm just getting the edit together now because it's a bit of a beast. But do hit subscribe if you want to see that and want to see what goes into it and all the behind the scenes of a commercial shoot and how we make it happen and make it work, especially during these sort of lockdown times, because that has its own hurdles to it. Anyway, have a great week and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.